Yeah, go ahead, please.
Said many times that the U.S. is doing far better than any other country when it comes to testing.
Yes.
Why does that matter? Why is this a global competition to you if every day Americans are still losing their lives and we're still seeing more cases every day?
Well, they're losing their lives everywhere in the world, and maybe that's a question you should ask China. Don't ask me, ask China that question, okay? When you ask them that question, you may get a very unusual answer. Yes, behind you, please.
Sir, why are you saying that to me specifically?
I'm telling you,
ask
I'm not
China?
saying it specifically to anybody. I'm saying it to anybody that would ask a nasty question like
That's
that.
not a nasty
Please
question.
go ahead.
Why does it matter?
Okay, anybody else? Please, go ahead in the back, please.
I have two questions.
No, it's okay.
But
We'll
you
go over
pointed
here.
to me. I have two questions, Mr.
Next,
President.
next, please.
But you called on me.
I did, and you didn't respond, and now I'm calling on
Sorry, I just
the
wanted
young
to,
lady in the back, please.
I just wanted to let my colleague
Okay.
finish. But can I ask you a
Ladies and
question,
gentlemen,
please?
thank you very much. Appreciate
But you
it.
called
Thank you
on
very
me.
much. Yeah.
Despite the nearly 1.8 million tests that you say the United States has done, the Inspector General for the Department of Health and Human Services released a report today, a survey of more than 300 hospitals across the country, and the number one complaint from those hospitals were severe shortages of testing supplies and
Well,
a
it's
really
just wrong.
long wait time. I mean,
It's
a
just
week
wrong.
or longer.
Did I hear the word Inspector General? Really? It's wrong. And they'll talk to you about it. It's wrong.
Your own government.
Well, where did he come from, the Inspector General? What's his name?
It came from the Inspector
No,
General
what's his name?
report.
What's
I
his
don't
name?
know his name
Well,
off the top
find
of
me
my
his name.
head.
Let me know, okay? If
But-
you find me his name, I'd appreciate it.
But sir, these are hospitals
All I can tell
that
you
do
is
not-
this. We
sir,
put up on the
these
board,
hospitals-
you're gonna ask the Admiral, but
these are
we are
hospitals
doing,
Who say that they're waiting a week or longer
Fine.
to get
We'll
their
speak to
test
the Admiral.
results. Why
but
is
we've
it
done
still
more
taking so
testing
long?
and had more results than any country anywhere in the world. They're doing an incredible job. Now they're all calling us. They want our testing. What are we doing? How do you do the 5-minute test? How do you do the 15-minute test?
I know you don't want to talk about the Inspector General report, but testing is still a big issue in this country. When can hospitals
Put the
expect?
slide up again, please.
When can
Just put it
hospitals expect to receive a quick turnaround of
Are you
these
ready?
test results?
Are you ready? Hospitals can do their own testing also. States can do their own testing. States are supposed to be doing testing. Hospitals are supposed to be doing testing. Do you understand that? We're the federal government. Listen to me. We're the federal government. We're not supposed to stand on street corners doing testing. They go to doctors. They go to hospitals. They go to the state. The state is a more localized government. You have 50 of them, and they can go 50 within here. You also have territories, as you know. And they do the testing. And if you look at the chart, if you take a look, did they put it up? Yeah. Just take a look. And these are testing, and the results are now coming in very quickly. Initially speaking, the tests were old, obsolete, and not really prepared. We have a brand new testing system that we developed very quickly, and that's your result. And you should say, congratulations, great job, instead of being so horrid in the way you ask a question. And no ammunition.
They have
and
said you
maybe
got
no
rid of the
ammunition.
pandemic office in the National Security Council.
We didn't do that. That turned out to be a false story. Now you're starting to go, what, are you working for CNN?
I'm pointing out what they have said and what you have
Thought
said.
you were
That's
with
all.
Fox. But Fox isn't so easy either. Don't kid
Mr.
yourself.
President, if this is
Hey,
not-
look, John, let me
not
tell you
by
something.
Fox or CNN.
You know that's a false story. What you just said is a false story. This doctor knows it better than anybody. No, but you shouldn't be repeating a story that you know is false. All right, who's next?
Hi, Mr. President. Yemi Shelcender with PBS NewsHour. On the campaign trail, you called yourself a nationalist. Some people saw that as emboldening white nationalists. Now people are also
I don't know
saying
why you'd
that
say
the
that.
president.
That's such a racist
There are
question.
some people that say that now the Republican Party is seen as supporting white nationalists
Oh, I
because
don't
of your
believe
rhetoric.
that. I don't
What do
believe
you make of that?
I don't believe it. I don't know. Why do I have my highest poll numbers ever with African Americans? Why do I have among the highest poll numbers with African Americans? I mean, why do I have my highest poll numbers? That's such a racist question. Honestly, I mean, I know you have it written down and you're going to tell me. Let me tell you, it's a racist question.
And Mr. President, I want to
love
ask.
it. You know what the word is? I love our country. I do. You have nationalists, you have globalists. I also love the world. And I don't mind helping the world, but we have to straighten out our country first. We have a lot of problems.
And Ms.
Excuse me, but to say that, what you said, is so insulting to me. It's a very terrible thing that you said.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to challenge you on one of the statements that you made in the tail end of the campaign in the midterms. That
Here we go.
If you don't mind, Mr. President,
Come on.
that this caravan was an invasion. As you know, Mr.
I
President,
consider it to be an
As you know,
invasion.
Mr. President, the caravan was not an invasion. It's a group of migrants moving up from Central America towards the border with the U.S.
Thank you for telling me that. I appreciate it.
Why did you characterize it as such?
Because I consider it an invasion. You and I have a difference of opinion.
But do you think that you demonized immigrants in
Not
this
at all.
election
No, not
to
at all.
try to keep?
I want them to come into the country, but they have to come in legally. You know, they have to come in, Jim, through a process. I want it to be a process, and I want people to come in, and we need the people.
Your
You know,
campaign.
Wait. You know why we need the people, don't you? Because we have hundreds of companies moving in. We need the people.
But your campaign had an ad showing migrants climbing over walls and
Well,
so
that's
on.
true.
But
They weren't actors.
They're not going to be doing that.
They weren't actors. Well, no, it's true. Do you think they were actors? They weren't actors. They didn't come from Hollywood. These were people. This was an actual, it happened a few days ago. And
They're hundreds of miles away, though. They're hundreds and hundreds of
you know
miles
what?
away.
I
That's
think
not an
you
invasion.
should, honestly, I think you should let me run the country. You run CNN.
All right.
And if you did it well, your ratings
Let
would
me
be
ask,
much
if
better.
I may
Okay,
ask
that's
one other
enough.
question, Mr. President. If I may ask
Peter,
one
go
other
ahead.
question, are you worried?
That's enough. That's enough.
Mr. President,
That's
I was going
enough.
to ask one of the other folks. have
That's
had-
enough.
Pardon me, ma'am. Mr.
Excuse
President,
me. That's enough.
Mr. President, I had one other
Peter,
question,
let's
if
go.
I may ask, on the Russia investigation. Are you concerned that you may have
I'm not concerned
indictments-
about anything with
that you
the
may have
Russian
indictments coming down?
investigation because it's a hoax.
Are you-
That's enough. Put down the mic.
Mr. President, are you worried about indictments coming down in this investigation?
Mr. President.
I'll tell you what, CNN should be ashamed of itself having you working for them. You are a rude, terrible person. You shouldn't be working for CNN. Go ahead.
I think that's unfair.
You're a very rude person. The way you treat Sarah Huckabee is horrible. And the way you treat other people are horrible. You shouldn't treat people that way. Go ahead. Go ahead, Peter, go ahead.
In Jim's defense, I've traveled with him and watched him. He's a diligent reporter who busts his
Well, I'm
butt
not a
like the
big
rest
fan
of
of
us.
yours either, so
I understand.
to be honest.
So let me ask you a question if I can. You repeatedly said,
You aren't the best.
Mr. President, you repeatedly, over the course
Okay,
of the...
just sit down, please. Well, when you report fake news, when you report fake news, which CNN does a lot, you are the enemy of the people. Go ahead.
Mr. President, over the course of the last several days of the campaign, sir, at the end of the campaign, you repeatedly said that Americans need to fear Democrats. You said Democrats would unleash a wave of violent crime that endangers families everywhere. Why are you
Because they're
pitting
very weak on
Americans?
crime.
Why are
Excuse
you
me.
pitting Americans
Peter.
against one another, sir?
Peter, what are you trying to be him?
No, I'm
Peter,
just
let me
asking the question.
Let me just tell you, very simple. Because they're very weak on crime. Because they have often suggested, members and people within the Democrat Party at a high level have suggested getting rid of ICE, getting rid of law enforcement. That's not going to happen, okay? We want to be strong on the borders. We want to be strong on law enforcement, and I want to cherish ICE because ICE does a fantastic job.
So,
what they do for us is so it's so unrecognized how good a job they do. So we want to take care of them, and we want to hold them very close because they do a good job.
But the question,
Okay,
to be clear, though, the question,
Thank you
sir,
very
is
much.
why are you
Sit down,
But
Peter.
the question, but you didn't answer my question. Just very simply, the question is, why are you pitting Americans against one another, sir?
I'm not.
Is that how you view
No, I'm not.
citizens
well,
of
look,
this country?
I'll tell you what. We won a lot of elections last night. We did very well last night.
But in many ways,
I think
it divided
it's going
the
to
country.
I think it's going to have a very positive impact. I watched NBC this morning. They didn't report it exactly correctly, but that's that's the fact with NBC. Nothing I can do about that. But I want this country to have protection. We want security in our country. I want security, Peter. I mean, you maybe don't think it's so important. And I think when you don't have it, you are indeed unleashing crime. I feel that. Go
You
ahead.
said you would sign an executive order on birthright citizenship. Are you still going to sign the executive order on birthright citizenship
You'll
this
ask
week?
me that question a little bit later. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead, sure.
Thank you, Mr. President. The investigation by the special counsel Robert Mueller has been going on since last spring. It's been over
It's
your
been a
head.
long time.
Yeah, it's been over your head, over Republicans' head during the midterms as well. Is this an opportunity for you, Mr. President, to end that investigation? Would you consider removing Mr. Mueller from his position?
I could have ended it any time I wanted. I didn't. And there was no collusion. There was no anything. I didn't. They went after hackers in Moscow. I don't know about that. They went after people with tax problems from years ago. They went after people with loans and other things. Had nothing to do with my campaign. This is a investigation where many, many millions of dollars has been spent, and there's no collusion. It was supposed to be on collusion. There's no collusion, and I think it's very bad for our country, I will tell you. I think it's a shame. And a poll came out today, by the way, from NBC, or at least I saw it on NBC, where a majority of the people do not agree with the Mueller investigation, or it wasn't approved. They have approval and disapproval, and it had a much higher disapproval. It should end, because it's very bad for our country.
So if it's bad...
And I'm not just talking about the tremendous expense. And the other thing is they should look at the other side also. They only look at one side. They're not looking at all of the things that came up during this investigation. They don't do that. They should also get people that can be fair, not 13 or 14 or 17. I call them the angry Democrats. They are angry people. And it's a very unfair thing for this country. It's a very, very, forget about unfair to me, it's very bad for our country. Okay.
So, Mr. President, if it's
Go ahead.
Mr.
No,
President,
no.
just wait,
Please.
just a moment. If it's unfair to the country and it's costing millions of dollars, why don't you just
Give him the
end
mic,
it?
please. I've answered the question. Okay. Go ahead, take the mic. Well, I'll give you I will give you voter suppression. You just have to sit down, please. Sit down. I didn't call you. I didn't call you. I'll give you voter suppression. Take a look at the CNN polls, how inaccurate they were. That's called voter suppression. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. President.
I'm not responding. I'm responding to. Excuse me. I'm not responding to you. I'm talking to this gentleman. Will you please sit down? Excuse me. Would you please sit down? Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. Now that the House of
Very
Representatives
hostile.
has
It's such a hostile media. It's so sad. You asked me about. No, you rudely interrupted him. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. Do your demands remain the same to the United States Congress on immigration in exchange for a DACA fix, in exchange for an amnesty for 1.7 million? Are you willing to change any of those demands that you gave to Congress earlier?
I think we could really do something having to do with DACA. And what really happened with DACA, we could have done some pretty good work on DACA, but a judge ruled that DACA was okay. Had the judge not ruled that way, I think we would have made a deal. Once the judge ruled that way, the Democrats didn't want to talk anymore. So we'll see how it works out at the Supreme Court. I thank you all for joining us, and I'd like to begin by providing an update on what we are doing to minimize the impact of the Chinese virus on our nation's students. With many schools closed due to the virus, the Department of Education will not enforce standardized testing requirements, very importantly, for students in elementary through high school for the current year. They've been through a lot. They've been going back and forth, schools open, schools not open. It's been all standardized testing, and, we're not going to be enforcing that, so I think you can let the people know. I think probably a lot of the students would be extremely happy, some probably not. The ones that work hard, maybe not, but it's one of those things.
For clarity, Dr. Fauci said there is no magic drug for coronavirus right now, which you would agree. I guess on this issue,
I think we only disagree a little bit.
Sorry.
I disagree. Maybe and maybe not. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. We have to see. It may work and it may not work. And I agree with the doctor, what he said. May work, may not work. I feel good about it. That's all it is, just a feeling. I'm a smart guy. I feel good about it. And we're going to see. You're going to see soon enough.
Nearly 200 dead, 14,000 who are sick, millions, as you witnessed, who are scared right now. What do you say to Americans who are watching you right now who are scared?
I say that you're a terrible reporter. That's what I say. I think it's a very nasty question, and I think it's a very bad signal that you're putting out to the American people. The American people are looking for answers, and they're looking for hope. And you're doing sensationalism, and the same with NBC and Comcast. I don't call it Comcast. I call it Concast. Let me just for whom you work. Let me just tell you something. That's really bad reporting. And you ought to get back to reporting instead of sensationalism. Let's see if it works. It might and it might not. I happen to feel good about it, but who knows? I've been right a lot. Let's see what. And if you look at this whistleblowers, which I have a lot of respect for whistleblowers, but only when they're real. His report of the phone call was totally different than the fact.
The president seized on a report in the New York Times that the whistleblower sought guidance from the House Intelligence Committee on how to file a complaint. Mr. Trump then accused the committee's chairman, Adam Schiff, of helping write the complaint, a charge he leveled with zero evidence.
Well, I think it's a scandal that he knew before. I go a step further. I think he probably helped write it. Okay? That's what the word is. And I think it's, I give a lot of respect for the New York Times for putting it out.
The president then defended his calls for Schiff to be investigated for treason, still fuming days after the chairman mocked Mr. Trump's phone call with the Ukrainian leader.
Because of the fact that he's lying about the president of the United States and as to what the president says. You know, I believe it or not, I watch my words very carefully. There are those that think I'm a very stable genius, okay? I watch my words very, very closely. And to have somebody get up and to totally fabricate a conversation that I had with another leader and make it sound so bad, it was so evil. If you look at what he said, okay, and he brought it up. I think he brought up the name Rudy Giuliani. What I want is the following, and I've said this loud and clear. We have our ambassadors here. We have Mike Pence here. Why are we the only ones that give the big money to the Ukraine?
What did you want about Biden? What did you want him to look into on Biden?
Look, Biden and his son are stone cold crooked, and you know it. His son walks out with millions of dollars. The kid knows nothing. Are you talking to me?
Yeah, it was just a follow-up of what I just asked you, sir.
Listen, you ready? We have the president of Finland. Ask him a question.
I have one for him. I just wanted to follow up on the one that I asked you, which was,
Did you hear
what
me?
did you want
Did you
him
hear
to
me?
Yes,
Ask
sir.
him a question.
I will, but
I've given you a long answer. Ask this gentleman a question. Don't be rude.
No, sir, I don't want to be rude. I just wanted you to have a chance to answer the question that I asked
I've
you.
answered everything. It's a whole hoax. And you know who's playing into the hoax? People like you and the fake news media that we have in this country. And I say in many cases, the corrupt media, because you're corrupt. Much of the media in this country is not just fake, it's corrupt. And just so you know, we've been investigating on a personal basis through Rudy and others, lawyers, corruption in the 2016 election. We've been investigating corruption because I probably will, I was going to definitely, but I probably will be bringing a lot of litigation against a lot of people having to do with the corrupt investigation, having to do with the 2016 election. It's really great to see everybody on this beautiful, beautiful day in Washington, D.C. Okay, question? Yeah, go ahead. Sure. She's shocked that I picked her.
No.
She's like in a state of shock.
I'm not thinking, Mr.
That's
President.
okay. I know you're not thinking. You never do.
I'm sorry?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
In a tweet this weekend, Mr. President, you said that it's incorrect to say you're limiting the scope of the FBI investigation.
What does that have to do with trade? I don't mind answering the question, but, you know, I'd like to do the trade
It has to do
questions,
with the other
right?
headline in the news, which is the Kavanaugh
I know,
nomination.
but how about talking about trade, and then we'll get to that. We'll do that later.
Do you think the trade,
Anybody have a trade?
Do you
Go
think
ahead,
your trade
please.
deal will pass through Congress, sir?
I think so, but, you know, if it doesn't, we have lots of other alternatives. But I do think so. I think if they're fair, which is a big question, but if it's fair on both sides, the Republicans love it. Industry loves it. Our country loves it. If it's fair, it will pass. I think it'll pass easily, really easily, because it's a great.
What do you say the Americans were scared, though? I guess nearly 200 dead, 14,000 who are sick, millions, as you witnessed, who are scared right now. What do you say to Americans who are watching you right now who are scared?
I say that you're a terrible reporter. That's what I say. Go ahead. I think it's a very nasty question, and I think it's a very bad signal that you're putting out to the American people. The American people are looking for answers, and they're looking for hope. and you're doing sensationalism, and the same with NBC and Comcast. I don't call it Comcast. I call it Concast. Let me just for whom you work. Let me just tell you something. That's really bad reporting. And you ought to get back to reporting instead of sensationalism. Let's see if it works. It might and it might not. I happen to feel good about it, but who knows? I've been right a lot. Let's see what happens, John.
Can I come back to the science and the logistics
You ought to
here?
be ashamed of yourself.
The units that were ordered, are they for clinical trials or are they for distribution to the general patient population?
We are going to, as I understand it, we are going to be taking samples in New York. Governor Cuomo very much is interested in this drug, and they are going to work on it also after they get a certain approval. We're waiting for one final approval from the FDA. We'll see what happens. But we'll use it on people that are not doing great, or even at the beginning of not feeling
Sort
well.
of fall under the.
And John, what do we have to
modified
lose?
So this would sort of.
Wait, John, it's been out there for so long. We hear good things. Let's see. Maybe it works or maybe it doesn't.
I understand all that. I'm just thinking the application here. So that would be under sort of a modified compassionate access.
We're doing that, I guess, and that's what it's called, yeah. Yes. Okay, one or two more, yeah. Jim?
Mr. President, we hear from a lot of people who see these briefings as sort of happy talk briefings. And
No happy talk today.
you and some of the officials paint a rosy picture of what is happening around the country. If you look at some of these questions, do we have enough masks? No. Do we have enough tests? No. Do we have enough PPE? No.
Why would you say no?
Do we have
I
enough
think the
medical
answer is
equipment?
yes. I think the answer is yes. Who said no to that?
I'm saying this
No,
is.
you're saying no, but who said no? But you asked me, do we have enough masks?
We hear
Yes.
from doctors, we hear from
No, you
health
didn't say
experts.
that. You said, do we have enough masks?
Does the country-
Yes.
does-
Do we have enough tests? Yes. Plus, we're developing new tests.
they're not-
Do we have enough ventilators? Yes. Do we have enough hospital beds? Yes. We've built 20,000 hospital beds. We have enough hospital beds. Go ahead, Jim, let's go.
Well, what do you say to, I mean, you watch the coverage.
You know what I
You're
say?
watching a lot of the coverage.
Well, a lot of it's
These
fake news.
doctors, no,
A lot of it's fake
not-
news. A lot of it's fake news. Let me just
When
tell
the
you.
doctors
The-
and the
the
medical experts come
governors-
on our air
the
and
governors
say that we
reported-
don't have enough tests, we don't have enough
The governor,
masks.
yeah, depending on your air, they always say that because otherwise you're not going to put them on. Let me just tell you something. The governors have said last night, they had a group of governors, 14 governors, they were together someplace, and they said, it's been unbelievable what's happened. We've been totally responsive. Ventilators. Everyone has the ventilators they need to a point where we're getting calls from foreign countries saying, you have all the ventilators, can we get some? And we're going to try and help some of these countries. These people have done an incredible job. This is not happy talk. Maybe it's happy talk for you. It's not happy talk for me. We're talking about death. We're talking about the greatest economy in the world. One day I have to close it off. And we did the right thing because maybe it would have been 2 million people died instead of whatever that final number will be, which could be 60, could be 70, could be 75, could be 55. Thousands of people have died. There's nothing happy about it, Jim. This is sad talk. This is the saddest, these are the saddest news conferences that I've ever had. I don't like doing them. You know why? Because I'm talking about death. I'm talking about taking the greatest economy ever created. We had the greatest numbers we've ever had in almost every aspect of economics, from employment to companies doing. Look at the airlines. They were having the best year. Now all of a sudden we have to save them. Okay? There's no happy talk, Jim. This is the real deal. And I've got to make the biggest decision of my life. And I've only started thinking about that. I mean, you know, I've made a lot of big decisions over my life. You understand that. This is by far the biggest decision of my life because I have to say, okay, let's go. This is what we're going to do.
When you have hospital administrators.
Sure. But you have many doctors that say, unbelievable job. I watched this morning, and I watched a certain network, and it wasn't Fox, and you had doctors saying that we've done an incredible job. You just read off these no, no, no. Well, we have ventilators, we have equipment, we have beds. How about beds? I mean, Governor Cuomo just told me a little while ago he's got plenty of beds. In fact, they're having a hard time filling Javits Center. We built them 2,900 beds. So that's not a fair question.
When you're
Jim, look,
sanitizing masks and
Jim,
you're talking about reusing PPE, obviously
no,
you don't have enough.
no, excuse me. We have masks. We have everything. And we were trying to get ready for the surge. And a lot of people said it will never happen. Deborah said it. You'll never need that many beds. They said we needed 40,000 ventilators. 40,000. It's like building a car. 40,000 ventilators. People said, I felt it too. You'll never need that many. Guess what? We're the envy of the world in terms of ventilators. Germany would like some. France would like some. We're going to help countries out. Spain needs them desperately. Italy needs them desperately. Mexico needs them desperately. He asked me last night, would it be possible to get 10,000 ventilators? Within a short period of time, I'll be able to help out Mexico. No, Jim, just the opposite of your question. It's not no, no, no. It's yes, yes, yes. We're in great shape. And you know what? What's happening now is those numbers are horrible. But take a look at the number of beds. We have beds available all over New York. New York really being the epicenter. New York has experienced something that has been absolutely horrific. I saw Hart's Island yesterday. I saw those people being buried yesterday. Fortunately, we have the beds, and you can speak to Mayor de Blasio, you can speak to Governor Cuomo. People can't even believe the job we've done. They can't even believe it. And I give tremendous credit to the military. There's been a military operation with private people. Wait a minute, wait. I give tremendous credit to our military, to the Army Corps of Engineers, to FEMA, to these people. The job they've done is incredible. And you shouldn't be asking that kind of a question. Jim, honestly.
Had the country been better
Okay, look,
prepared
I really don't believe you're that
onset
bad a
of
guy.
this?
You shouldn't be asking that kind of a question. You should say, you know what? It's been really incredible what's been happening. Jim, nobody's asking. What governor, let me ask you this. What governor, we have more tests than anybody in the world. We have virtually every country in the world calling us, asking us, how do we get these tests that you have? Your testing is the best in the world. How do we get it? They've done a fantastic job. And when you ask a question like that, it's very insulting to a lot of great people. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. President. The issue of what happened when you were in France continues to be a story.
You're going to have to take that off, please. You can take it off. How many feet are you away?
I'll speak a lot louder.
Well, if you don't take it off, you're very muffled. So if you would take it off, it would be a lot easier.
I'll just speak a lot louder. Is that better?
It's better, yeah. It's better.
Just based on some of your recent tweets, sir, do you...
You sound so clear, as opposed to everybody else where they refuse.
The woman that you said was a great doctor in that video that you retweeted last night said that masks don't work and there is a cure for COVID-19, both of which health experts say is not true. She's also made videos saying that doctors make medicine using DNA from aliens and that they're trying to create a vaccine to make you immune from becoming religious.
Well, maybe it's the same, maybe it's not, but I can tell you this. She was on air along with many other doctors. They were big fans of hydroxychloroquine, and I thought she was very impressive in the sense that from where she came, I don't know which country she comes from, but she said that she's had tremendous success with hundreds of different patients. And I thought her voice was an important voice, but I know nothing about her.
Masks don't work.
Yeah, go ahead, Paul.
Last week you said
Go ahead.
masks. Last week, well, real quick. Last
Okay,
week you said
thank you very
masks
much,
with
everybody.
the
Thank you.
On the COVID relief bill, you said masks.
How do you go from 10 to 20 to 300,000? 10 to 20,000 masks to 300,000, even though this is different. Something's going on, and you ought to look into it as reporters. Where are the masks going? Are they going out the back door? Many of the states are stocked up. Some of them don't admit it, but they have. We have sent just so many things to them, and including ventilators. You know, there's a question as to hoarding of ventilators. Some hospitals and independent hospitals, and some hospital chains, as we call them, they are holding ventilators. They don't want to let them up. We need them for certain areas where there's big problems. You're going to have mental depression for people. You're going to have large numbers of suicides. Take a look at what happens in a really horrible recession or worse. So you're going to have tremendous suicides, but you know what you're going to have more than anything else? Drug addiction. You will see drugs being used like nobody's ever used them before, and people are going to be dying all over the place from drug addiction.
You've said repeatedly that you think that some of the equipment that governors are requesting, they don't actually need. You said New York might not need 30,000. You said it on Sean Hannity's Fox News. You said that
why
you might.
Why don't you people act? Let me ask you.
You said
why
some
don't
states.
Why don't you act in a little more positive? It's always trying to
My
get
question
you.
to you
Get you. And you know what? That's why nobody trusts the media anymore.
My
That's
question
why
to you is,
people,
how is that going to
excuse
impact?
me, you didn't hear me. That's why you used to work for the Times and now you work for somebody else. Look, let me tell you something. Be nice. Don't
Mr.
be
President, my
threatening.
question
Don't
is-
be threatening. You know, when journalists get up, and you're a journalist, a fine journalist, when journalists get
from
up
Sean Hannity.
and ask questions that are so threatening.
I was quoting
we're
you
all on the
directly
same
from your
team.
interview with Sean Hannity.
Take a look at my interview.
You were talking about governors of different states, and you said, I want them to be appreciative. You also said, if they don't treat you right,
But I didn't say
don't
that.
call.
I didn't
These are
say
direct,
that. No, it's
direct
such a-
quotes, sir.
Excuse me, ready? Take a look at what I said. I want them to be appreciative of me, okay? And then you cut it off because it's fake news.
You and
CNN.
of your
Listen,
administration,
just
absolutely.
Please, let me just finish it. You just said it again, and you know the answer's a lie. You know that
I could
your
read you
statement
your
is a
full
lie.
comments,
Let
sir, if
me
that
just
would
say, look,
be easier.
your statement and your response and your answer is a lie. Read the rest of your question, the rest of your statement, you didn't put in. You have to put that in. And it said in there, FEMA, and it said in there, Army Corps of Engineers, because when they disrespect me, they're disrespecting our government. And you know what? I don't mind if I'm disrespected, but they can't disrespect the Army Corps of Engineers and FEMA. Okay.
Why is the lack of
Please, go ahead. I want them to appreciate the incredible job we're doing. We are doing a job the likes of which has never been done before. All I'm saying is this: how do you close down the greatest economy in the history of the world when on January 17th you have no cases and no death? When on January 21st you have one case and no death. One case. Think of that. Now, we're supposed to close down the country, but here's what happened. When on January 31st I instituted the ban, Joe Biden went crazy. He said, you don't need the ban. He didn't go crazy. Like he didn't even know what the hell the ban was. But so he didn't go crazy. But he did say, he did call me xenophobic. Wait a minute. He called me xenophobic. He called me a racist because he has since apologized and he said I did the right thing. So when you say, why didn't you this? Every Democrat thought I made a mistake when I did it. I saved tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of lives by putting
time
it.
that you bought, the argument is that you bought yourself some time. You didn't use it to prepare hospitals. You didn't use it to ramp up testing. Right now, nearly 20 million
You're so
people
disgraceful.
are unemployed.
It's so
Tens of
disgraceful the way you said it.
thousands
Let
of
me just
Americans are
listen.
dead.
I
How
just
is
went
this
over
real?
it.
Or this rant supposed to make people feel
I just went
confident
over
in
it.
an unprecedented crisis?
Nobody thought we should do it, and when I did it,
But what did you do with the time that you bought?
you know
The
we
month
did.
of February. That
You know what we
video
did?
was a gap.
What
The
do you
entire
do?
month of February.
What do you do when you have no case in the whole United States?
You had cases
When
in February.
excuse me, you reported it. 0 cases, 0 deaths on January 17th.
January, February, the entire
January,
month of
I said in
February. Your video
January.
has a complete gap.
On
Month of
January
February.
30th.
What did your administration do in February with the time that your travel ban bought
A
you?
lot.
What?
A lot. And in fact, we'll give you a list. What we did, in fact, part of it was up there. We did a lot. Look. You know you're a fake. You know that. Your whole network, the way you cover it, is fake. And most of you, and not all of you, but the people are wise to you. That's why you have a lower approval rating than you've ever had before, times probably 3. And when you ask me that question, let me ask you this: why did Biden apologize? Why did he write a letter of apology?
right now care
No,
about
that's
why
very
Joe Biden
important.
didn't apologize
Why
to
did
you.
the Democrats think that I acted too quickly? You know why? Because they really thought that I acted too quickly. We have done a great job. Now, I could have kept it open. And I could have done what some countries are doing. They're getting beat up pretty badly. I could have kept it open. I thought of keeping it open because nobody's ever heard of closing down a country, let alone the United States of America. But if I would have done that, we would have had hundreds of thousands of people that would right now be dead. We've done this right, and we really have done this right. The problem is the press doesn't cover it the way.
Many Americans are saying the exact same thing about you, that you should have warned them the virus was spreading like wildfire through the month of February instead of holding rallies with thousands of people. Why did you wait so long to warn them?
Who you with?
And why did you not have social distancing until March 16th?
Who you with?
I'm Weijia Jiang with CBS News.
So, if you look at what I did in terms of cutting off or banning China from coming in.
Chinese nationals. But by the way, not Americans who are also
Nice and
coming
easy,
from China.
nice and easy, just relax. We cut it off. People were amazed. These gentlemen, everybody was amazed that I did it. We were very early. Oh, I'm the president. And you know what I just did? And you know what I just...
And by the way, when you issued the ban, the virus was already here.
Okay, and you know how many people, when I issued the ban, how many cases of virus were in the United States when I issued the ban? Do you know the number? No, how many cases? Remember I said one person. How many cases were here when I issued the ban?
But did you know?
No, you have to do your research. How many?
I did my research. On the 23rd of March, you said you knew this was going to be a pandemic.
Can I tell you what? I did know it. I did know it. All I have to do is look.
So you knew it was going to
Anybody
spread.
knew it. Just, are you ready? How many cases were in the United States when I did my ban? How many people had died in the United States?
So do you acknowledge that you didn't think
Keep
it
your
was
voice
going
down,
to
please.
spread?
Keep your voice down.
Did you not
How
think it
many?
was going to spread?
How many cases were in the United States? I did a ban where I'm closing up the entire country. How many people died?
And that's a fair point.
How many people died in the United States? And yet I closed up the country, and I believe there were no deaths, 0 deaths at the time I closed up the country. Nobody was there. And you should say thank you very much for good judgment. Go ahead, please. There are those that say you can test too much. You do know that.
Who says that?
Oh, just read the manuals, read the books.
Manuals?
Read the
What
books.
manuals?
Read the books.
What books?
What testing does
I'm
is
sorry,
it shows, wait a minute,
who
John,
said-
let me explain. What testing does, it shows cases. It shows where there may be cases.
I've covered you for a long time. I've gone to your rallies. I've talked to your people. They love you. They listen to you. They listen to every word you say. They hang on your every word. They don't listen to me or the media or Fauci. They think we're fake news. They want to get their advice from you. And so when they hear you say everything's under control, don't worry about wearing masks, I mean, these are people, many of them are older people,
What's
Mr.
your
President.
definition of control? Yeah, under the
It's giving them a false
circumstances
sense of
right
security.
now, I think it's under control. I'll tell you what.
How? 1,000 Americans are dying a day.
They are dying. That's true. And it is what it is. But that doesn't mean we aren't doing everything we can. When I took over, we didn't even have a test. Now, in all fairness,
why would you
there
have a
was
test?
no test
The virus
for
didn't
this.
exist. How would you have a
Excuse me, I was
test?
going to say.
Okay. Death is going up now.
Okay,
and it's 1,000 a day.
If you look at death.
Yeah, it's
okay,
going
let's
up
look.
again.
Let's look.
Daily death.
Take a look at some of these charts.
I'd love to.
We're going to look.
Let's look.
And if you look at death.
Yeah. It's started to go up
Here's
again.
one. Well, right here, the United States is lowest in numerous categories. We're lower than the world.
Lower than
We're
the
lower
world?
than
What is that?
Europe.
In
Look,
what?
look.
In what?
Take a look. Right here. Here's case death.
Oh, you're doing death as a proportion of cases. I'm talking about death as a proportion of population. That's where the US is really bad.
Well,
Much worse than South Korea, Germany, etc.
you can't do that. You have
Why
to go.
can't I do that?
You have to go by. You have to go by where. Look, here is the United States. You have to go by the cases. The cases.
Why
are
not
dead.
as a proportion of
when we have
population?
somebody. What it says is when you have somebody that has where there's a case.
Oh, okay.
The people that live from those cases.
It's surely a relevant statistic to say if the US has X population and X percentage of death of that population
No,
versus
because you
South
have to
Korea.
go by the cases.
Well, look at South Korea, for example. 51 million population, 300 deaths. It's like, it's crazy
you don't
compared to
know
other
that.
countries. I do. It's
You
on the,
don't know
it's-
that.
You think they're faking their statistics, South Korea?
I
An
won't get
advanced
into
country?
that because I have a very good relationship with the country. But you don't know that.
1,000 Americans are dying a day. But I understand on cases, it's different.
No, but you're not reporting it correctly, Jonathan.
I think I am, but it's been widely reported that the US has intelligence indicating that Russia paid bounties or offered to pay bounties to Taliban fighters to kill American soldiers. You had a phone call with Vladimir Putin on July 23rd. Did you bring up this issue?
No, that was a phone call to discuss other things.
And you've never discussed it with him?
I have never discussed it with him, no. I would. I'd have no problem with it.
But you don't believe the intelligence? It's because you
got
don't believe the intelligence, that's why.
It never reached my desk. You know why? Because they didn't think it was intelligence. They didn't think it was real.
It was in your written brief, though,
They
apparently.
didn't think it was worthy of. I wouldn't mind. If it reached my desk, I would have done something about it. It never reached my desk because.
Do you read your written brief?
I do.
Do
I
you?
read a lot.
Really?
You know, I read a lot. They like to say I don't read. I read a lot.
Your daily intelligence
I comprehend
brief?
extraordinarily well. Probably better than anybody that you've interviewed in a long time. I did more for the black community than anybody, with the possible exception of Abraham Lincoln, whether you like it or not. People say, oh, that's
You really, you believe you did more than Lyndon Johnson, who passed the Civil Rights Act?
I think I did, yeah.
How?
Because I
How
got criminal
possibly did you
justice reform done. I got prison reform.
Lyndon Johnson.
I've done things. Well,
he passed the Civil Rights
ask,
Act.
How has it worked out? If you take a look at what Lyndon Johnson did.
You think the Civil Rights Act was a mistake?
How has it worked out? Because frankly, it took a long time. But for African Americans,
but you think that was a
my
mistake?
administration, Jonathan, under my administration, African Americans were doing better than they had ever done in the history of this country.
How do you think history will remember John Lewis?
I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know. I don't know John Lewis. He chose not to come to my inauguration. He chose. I never met John Lewis, actually. I don't believe. It was an incorrect report.
When was the last time you heard from him?
I don't want to say.
Since you pointed to me, just a quick question about that. So you haven't made any contact, though, just to make sure?
With who?
The North Koreans.
I don't want to say. I won't say that.
Okay.
We have a good relationship with North Korea. As good as you can have. I mean, we have a good relationship with North Korea. I have a good relationship with Kim Jong-un, and I hope he's okay. And somebody would say, oh, that's terrible. No, it's not terrible. I hope he's okay. And I think it was a fake report done by CNN.
So can I ask you a question?
What do you have? Go ahead. No, that's enough. Go ahead.
Can I ask? But that wasn't my question.
The problem is you don't write the truth. So, as far as I'm concerned, I want to go to the next
Can I
one.
ask you a question about?
No, not CNN, please. Go ahead.
The White House has not
You don't.
responded to these
I
allegations.
told you.
From your side?
CNN is fake news. Don't talk to me. Go ahead, please.
But he says he was retaliated against, and that's why he was removed from his job. Do you have a response to that?
Okay, next question.
Mr. President, I have two questions, one on behalf of a colleague who's not here because of social
Just
distancing.
ask one, please.
First one, could you talk about your decision-making process with the governor of Georgia? You yesterday
The controversy?
said, well, you said yesterday that you told the governor of Georgia you were concerned.
I had a good talk with the governor of Georgia.
Earlier in the week, you spoke and you did not convey this kind of message. Was there a change
I
in
did
your
convey
thinking?
the message. I didn't like the fact that he's leaving certain things. I want the states to open more than he does, much more than he does. But I didn't like to see spas at this early stage, nor did the doctors. Is that a correct statement? It was reported in one of the newspapers that they found a lot of ballots in a river. They throw them out if they have the name Trump on it, I guess, but they had ballots.
No names on them, they said.
Okay, well, they still found them in a river, whether they had a name on it or not. They found many ballots, as you know, in a riverbed in a state, in a certain state. Yeah, please.
Just wanted to follow up on my colleague's question about Russian interference. Can you pledge to the American people that you will not accept any foreign assistance in the upcoming election? And on this idea of a purge in your administration, there was recently the departure of your acting DNI, Joseph McGuire. You replaced him with your ambassador to Germany, Rick Grinnell. Some of your critics have pointed out that Ambassador Grinnell has no intelligence experience. How can you justify to the American people having an acting DNI with no intelligence experience?
Okay, first of all, I want no help from any country, and I haven't been given help from any country. And if you see what CNN, your wonderful network, said, I guess they apologized in a way for, didn't they apologize for the fact that they said certain things that weren't true? Tell me, what was their apology yesterday? What did they say?
Mr. President, I think our record on delivering the truth is a lot better than yours sometimes, if you don't mind me saying.
Let me tell you about your record. Your record is so bad you ought to be ashamed of yourself. You have probably
I'm
the
not
worst
ashamed
record.
of anything, and our
you probably have the
organization
worst
is not
record in the
ashamed,
history of broadcasting. As far as McGuire is concerned, he's a terrific guy, but on March 11th his time ended anyway, so his time came up. So we would have had to by statute, we would have had to change him anyway, so the
Will your
time
new
was there.
DNI have experience
I
in the
think,
intelligence
yes,
field?
yes. In fact, we're talking to 5 different people right now. I think all people that you know, all people that you respect, and I'll make a decision probably over the next week to 2 weeks. We have some very good people. But Joe McGuire is a very excellent guy. He's a very good man. And his time was March 11th. I believe it was March 11th where he would have had to leave.
Was he
But we
forced
are
out
going
because he
to-
wasn't sufficiently loyal to you?
No, not at all. Not at all. He was pushed out because, frankly, wasn't pushed out. He would have had to get out. On March 11th, he would have had to leave. But we're going to be making a decision on DNI very shortly.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, please.
4 years ago. You were behind in the polls, as you are now.